much for joining us this afternoon, dealing with us at this new time. Happy to see everyone for our May CCCT meeting. You see a new slide up today. We are going to go ahead and have to jump right into our presentation to acknowledge a hard stop at 1 p.m. So again, thank you everyone for joining. We've heard so much of your feedback in the past few months regarding challenges in our communities for best serving our immigrant populations, our immigrant communities here in Prince George's County. And so in hearing those challenges, we wanted to make sure that we were giving you all the resources to know immigrant rights in the community when best serving the community, but then also to know what rights, to what resources you can pass along while you are serving folks out in the community. So super excited to be joined by Sarah Mylad from Just Neighbors. Just Neighbors is a 501c3 organization that provides immigration legal services to DC, Maryland, and Virginia residents. So really excited to get to bring this training to Prince George's County. And thank you, Sarah, so much for joining us this afternoon.
Sorry, wouldn't be a virtual meeting if I didn't talk while I was muted. Very happy to be here with you all, and hopefully you can see my presentation now. And it would be really great if you would, so I'm going to try to go through this as quickly as possible. If there's something that we want to go back to, questions that we want to address, this really needs to be useful for you all. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in, unless you have anything else that you want to say before we get started.
No, if you just want to quickly introduce yourself, Sarah, that would be great, and we can jump right into things.
Sounds good. All right. So my name is Sarah Salim Mylad, and I am the managing attorney of the DC, Maryland program of portion of our Just Neighbors program. Okay. So we serve Just Neighbors is a 501c3 that does exclusively immigration legal services. Our clients are all 200% or below of the poverty line. And I've been working with Just Neighbors for 15 years. We've been in the business since 1996. And we have merged with various agencies over the years that have allowed us to expand our services. So in 1996, we began in Northern Virginia. And we have gradually expanded to include rural Virginia and Maryland. Actually, if I move on to this next slide of what we do, it'll tell you that again. But our services are free for those who qualify, 200% or below. And we waive, we have a nominal $100 intake fee, but we waive that about half the time. We engage in education efforts in addition to the immigration legal services. We provide, do presentations like this one, provide immigration 101s, know your rights, racial inequity in immigration. And we do that for various communities, various other service providers, and also for churches and other stakeholders. We build cross-cultural communities through the use of volunteers. So volunteering is a big part of the work we do, and we engage volunteers at various levels, including advocacy on key issues that impact our clients.
What is some of this stuff?
I'm sorry, I think somebody wasn't on mute there, so I just got thrown out there for a second. We, just to show you here, this is our service area. And in 2020, we merged with an agency that was serving DC, Maryland. So we've been, you can see that 2020 and remember that pandemic that we went through. And so that was right in the middle of the pandemic, but we have trudged on and continued to develop partners in the area. Now, this is just briefly, this is the client base that we serve and gives you a bit of a breakdown of the case types that we do. That escaping violence, that includes a large number of humanitarian-based cases. Now, just to kind of jump into our discussion, At a glance, and it's hard to just do it at a glance, the impact of the new president, okay? Number of issues here that I'm going to just highlight really quickly. There is this new requirement for registration. Registration is an enforcement tool. It does not confer any immigration benefits. I am sure that there are a lot of, there's a lot of discussion around this, and clients that are debating whether or not to register. As an agency, what we have done is laid out for them what registration is, that it is an enforcement tool, possible pros and cons of registering. We cannot advise anyone not to register because that is the law. But what we are doing is just laying that information out so that people understand that it is an enforcement tool and it does not confer any immigration benefits. Birthright citizenship, another hot topic. This is in litigation right now. There was a hearing before the Supreme Court on May 15th, and that litigation has not been resolved. It's actually on multiple issues related to birthright citizenship. But what's important to note is that there is a temporary restraining order right now, so no one is affected by the executive order on birthright citizenship at this time. Happy to take questions on that at the end. There is impact regarding deportation on the interior, so the expansion of expedited removal. Expedited removal was always a tool, but it has been expanded from 2 weeks in the its use has been expanded for individuals who've been in the United States from 2 weeks to now individuals who have been in the United States for less than 2 years. And from 100 miles of a border to anywhere in the interior. And we're hearing of people who are being removed to areas like Guantanamo Bay, Panama, and other. Also, we can see impacts at the border in terms of tools that are being used for prevention and deterrence of asylum seekers. So reinstating the Remain in Mexico, which was around during Trump 1.0, and also the expansion of expedited removal near the border. Number of other things that have come up. So IRS and DHS data sharing. And so there's a lot of concern around this data sharing because issues of confidentiality that were previously respected by IRS, concern around misinformation, but there is now an MOU, a memorandum of understanding between IRS and DHS, and they have stated that the purpose of that is, again, enforcement, particularly in locating individuals who are undocumented, and specifically those who have final orders of removal. Also, there is a self-deportation myth going on. The administration has said that for individuals who choose to self-deport, that there may be funding that they receive, a sort of reward, $1,000 reward that they receive if they self-deport. Also, which we'll discuss in more detail, is the ICE sensitive locations memo. So we'll discuss that in more detail. Okay, so what we want to go into more is ICE enforcement response, and then we will talk about tools that are available to us to provide for your clients with regard to ICE enforcement and with regard to family preparedness planning. All right, so I want to just back up and talk about privacy expectations at work or in any other areas. So sensitive locations versus constitutional protections. All right. The sensitive locations rescission is relating to a memo that was in effect since 2011. All right, it required ICE to refrain from enforcement actions in certain locations that were deemed sensitive, like courthouses, health facilities, houses of worship, schools, DV shelters. That is the memo, the sensitive locations memo, that was rescinded. However, the government can require more protections than available constitutionally, but it can't provide less protections. So our Fourth Amendment rights of all people, not just citizens, still exist, okay? And all people have Fourth Amendment right from unreasonable search and seizure, okay? So we can talk about those Fourth Amendment protections. Courts have consistently held that people have reasonable expectation of privacy in private locations, such as their home, such as locations that are deemed private, okay? But not in public locations like lobbies of buildings, sidewalks, parks, or other areas that are deemed public. So for for example, our office has created what we're calling our second lobby. Essentially, as our clients come to our office, we are immediately moving them out of the lobby and putting them into a second lobby within our closed doors. That area is not available to the public. There's no reasonable expectation of privacy in any area of buildings that are unlocked and that are accessible to the public. So that's why we have identified an area that is locked behind closed doors that we can utilize as our second lobby while our clients are potentially waiting to meet with their service provider. All right, so this is just something for to be aware of and to think about as your patrons access your services. Are they exposed to vulnerability? Are they sitting in a area that would be considered a public space, or do they have an expectation of privacy in the locations that they are potentially waiting for services, or where they are meeting with you for the actual services? Now, ICE documentation, and I'm going to show you examples of this. We want to just be aware of what is the difference between a judicial warrant versus an administrative warrant. Okay, so I'm actually gonna, I'll start here on the left side. Judicial warrant is a formal written order. Okay, it's issued by a court. It could be a state or federal court, and it must be signed by a judge or a magistrate. Okay, it must be complied with, and there's serious consequences for refusing to comply with a judicial warrant. Okay, a judicial warrant has to be signed by a judge, not signed by an official. Okay, a warrant has to be signed by a judge, not a government official. All right. On the right side here, we can see administrative warrants is a formal written document. Typically on the top, it says that is from DHS, Department of Homeland Security, or another government agency. And it's signed, it could be signed by an immigration officer, okay? Or signed by any other government official. It does not authorize a search in a private place. ICE agents who has only administrative warrants may not conduct searches based on that warrant, but they are authorized to seize a person that is or arrest a person in a public place. All right, so you can take a look here, see that this is a judicial warrant. It has United States District Court at the top. It says search warrant. It has a name an address, and the judge's signature here. Versus here, an ICE warrant that you can see on the upper left-hand side. It is the Department of Homeland Security. And it's not a search warrant to go into private places. But it is, this individual can be arrested if found in a public place. All right, so we can kind of take a look here again, side by side. These are samples. You can see on the left-hand side, this is the Department of Homeland Security. It is an ICE warrant. And on the right-hand side here is a judicial warrant that is for search, seizure, and it is signed by a judge. All right. So for those of us who want to create safe areas, we want to, again, ask these questions and be prepared. Who is the point person in our office to respond to or to be informed of ICE's presence? Does your office need a safe area to regroup, or should there be an ICE visit? And these events can and should be filmed. And can you create, like we said earlier, a private or secure place for patrons to sit while they're waiting? Okay. Now, for our clients, it's important for them to know they need to speak these words. I have the right to remain silent. I want to speak to a lawyer. So something important to note, and I think it's going to come up later in the slides, but in Maryland, there is no requirement to state your name to an officer. There is no requirement to give your name if that person does not have a warrant for your arrest. But they need to say these words: I have the right to remain silent. I want to speak to a lawyer. Additionally, speaking the words, do I have the right to leave? And then after an ICE encounter, writing down what happened as soon as they leave is important. All right. If you are arrested, you have the right to contact a lawyer and your consulate. And these are important resources to be aware of for our clients. Contacting a MICA Center, that's formerly Care Coalition, if they're detained, and contacting the ACLU if they believe law enforcement or immigration authorities have violated your rights. So there is a sheet that I sent over, I believe, to Taylor that talks about rights and making sure that ICE does not violate your rights, and that was completed by the ACLU. This is an ICE detainer locator resource. So this is something that we are providing to family and friends, and just making sure the community in general is aware of, so that if necessary, they can locate their family members. And then, oops, sorry, moved forward there. Another important thing is being aware of separation planning tools, or we're preferring to call it family preparedness planning. And so there are a lot of tools in Maryland, and what we have done as an agency is collect all of that onto our website. So I'll be happy to, if we have time, kind of walk you all through that. But the best thing to do is to go to our website. Additionally, there are a lot of resources. A lot of the resources that I have talked to you about, we have gathered there on the website. But if you go to justneighbors.org, you will see that these resources are separated by the jurisdictions that we serve clients in. At the very top of the page at justneighbors.org, it says resources for immigrants. And once you click on that link, it also provides an option to choose the page in Spanish. So it's available at this point in English and Spanish. And there is Know Your Rights and preparedness material, as well as family separation planning available in the 3 jurisdictions that we work in. Again, there was also a question about advocacy. There are advocacy resources on there. Certainly, it's really important to advocate with our local representatives and our senators as well. Another tool that is going to be, I'm not sure if I've got it in here, but I'll move forward here. All right. Now back to the hotlines here. I believe that was on a prior slide, but just being aware of CASA of Maryland, which is located in Prince George's County, has this hotline that can be used for Maryland and Virginia residents. I believe for DC residents as well, that should be contacted if someone is detained and or if there is reporting of ICE action in a particular area. This is where this hotline is where they want to receive those reports so that they can also, just beware of the rumor mill and verify whether or not that is a credible source that has told them about that action. All right, I'm providing my contact information here. I will tell you it's become very difficult for us to respond about particular clients. And at this time, we are still receiving warm handoffs, but due to government funding cuts, we are a subcontractor that was receiving funding for unaccompanied children and the Immigration Court Help Desk. That has all gone away, and we're continuing to serve all of those clients. And we've also taken warm handoffs from agencies like KIND, Kids in Need of Defense, who's essentially almost had to close their doors in terms of their work with unaccompanied children. So it is becoming more difficult for us to take warm handoffs. That being said, please feel free to reach out to our agency and or have your client also complete an intake. Our office is available via our phone number, our main line, which is the 703-979-1240. Our office in Annandale is where they'll be calling into, and that receives all of the intake requests. They can call Tuesday through Friday, 9 to 5, and do a telephone screening. And we will determine at that time whether we have capacity for their case. And sometimes we're able to put people on our waiting list, though we have a bit of a lengthy waiting list at this time, but still very important to call because we are also partnering with various agencies and doing legal tabling. And so even if we're unable to represent the client, we can still equip them with legal information and potentially refer them to our legal tabling. All right, this is the information that we are giving the clients. We've got this intake line, like I said, is available Tuesday through Friday, 9 to 5. And then on our website, there is a Get Help in the drop-down menu. What I want to see is it may be down temporarily because we are updating that. Let me see here. Yes, the form is back up on the website. So if people are unable to call Tuesday through Friday, 9 to 5, they can fill out the form online at justneighbors.org/gethelp. All right, so let me back up over here for now. There is a survey that maybe I can put up at the end that our office is asking for you all to do. But what I want to do is stop sharing for now so I can see your faces and make time for questions, because I know how important that is and I want this to be useful for you all. So, do we have any questions that we want to start with right now? And I'm sorry, I have not been following the chat.
No worries. Thank you so much, Sarah. If folks have questions, feel free to unmute or put them in the chat, but I can go ahead and get us kicked off here. So, Sarah, going back a few slides when you were comparing the different warrants there, you said that a warrant signed by an immigration judge is not a judicial warrant. I'm curious if you can differentiate between an immigration judge versus a judge, and then how to kind of differentiate how that would look different on a signed form.
Sure, absolutely. So, an immigration judge is an administrative law judge. And this has actually been a point of contention for a long time. So they are not judges in the, with the authority of a normal Article 3 judge. They are administrative law judges. And so, and an administrative law judge will always be signing a document that has DHS at the top of that page. So actually, I can go ahead and share again and put that page up if we think that would be useful. And let's go back there. Yeah, so we can look here again. Right up here on the left-hand side, it says U.S. Department of Homeland Security, warrant of arrest for an alien. Typically, it's going to have the individual's alien number. Whereas on the right, this is, in this sample here, we've got United States District Court, Eastern District of California. So it's going to be a local court or a state court, or a federal court, and it's going to specify that it is for search and seizure. It could be for an individual, could be for search, could be for seizure. It's going to specify that. And when we talk about a warrant for an individual versus the search of a location for this versus the seizure of particular property. So these are distinct warrants. Actually, I want to go up to our other sample here. This, again, is a warrant that is issued by Department of Homeland Security. It may be signed by an administrative judge, an immigration law judge, or a DHS official, versus this one which says United States District Court, Southern District of Florida. And it's got a name, an address. It specifies that it's a search warrant, and it is signed by an Article 3 judge. Does that clarify?
It is incredibly tricky, but I am sure that is the method to the madness. Yes.
I know. Remembering that confusion is, yeah. All right. Any other questions? And maybe what I'll do here, I've got some additional slides that we could potentially get to, but I wanted to make sure I got to your questions. So,
Sharon, I see your hand.
Yes. I had a question about whether Just Neighbors has offices in each jurisdiction. And also, do you have a list of immigration, I guess I would say vetted immigration attorneys that you can refer people to?
Yes, absolutely. So we are serving in we're serving Maryland, DC, and Virginia. We have partnership offices in these various locations. Right now, we have a physical office in Wheaton. As for our Maryland footprint, we've got an office in Wheaton that services DC, Montgomery County, and Prince George's County, as well as an office in Baltimore that services Baltimore City and Baltimore County. We're hoping to continue to grow in those partnerships, and we also have a number of MOUs, MLPs with various agencies, and we're trying to grow that across the footprint so that, memorandums of understanding with various agencies and medical legal partnerships across the various counties so that we can continue to be more effective in those counties. So actually, we're working on hopefully medical legal partnership or other social service providers that would like to see these services in their counties so that we can be more client-centered also, because the more we've got, the more we're partnering with other social services agencies, the more resources that are available to the clients. So that was one of your questions. Oh, also the other question was regarding other service providers. So, yes, absolutely. A big part of what we do is when people are calling us to get a screening, we're determining whether we're the appropriate agency, whether we have capacity, and then providing a list of referrals to notable agencies and also private practitioners that are well known among the in the area. We're part of the American Immigration Lawyers Association and also the Maryland Immigration Legal Service Providers groups. So that's how we have exposure to various other service providers. And if that's something that you're welcome to reach out to get those resources. But also, what may be more effective is to have the client call us, do a screening, and then we can determine, because we also know based on these things change very often, who has capacity for what. So we tend to refer first to the nonprofits if they have capacity, and then to private practitioners that we know maybe specialize in particular types of humanitarian cases. Thanks for the question. I see Nancy's hand up. Hi, Nancy.
Hello. Hi, this is so nice. So we work with the Hispanic community and mostly with no immigration status. So my question is, when one of our clients, they hear, oh, ICE is coming with a warrant, they are scared. So would they be found in contempt if they don't comply with the warrant, or they can just ignore it and stay close in their homes?
So, okay, so like we were talking about, if there is so we have heard that sometimes ICE has come with a judicial warrant, okay? The judicial warrant is the one that we were talking about that has, that's from a court, that's signed by a judge, not signed by an immigration law judge or signed by an immigration officer sometimes, but it's rare, okay? It's not the norm. The norm is that they are, they could be hanging out outside of people's homes with an ICE warrant. They may be knocking on the door. And remember, ICE comes in plain clothing. They are allowed to do that. They lie, in order to get in. They may say, oh, there's an emergency in the parking lot or something like that. So it can be tricky in that sense. I understand people are afraid. The ICE warrants do not grant them authority to go into a home. They're not a search warrant. They're a warrant for a person. They don't give them authority to go into a private place. Okay. And your home is considered a private place. That being said, I understand that it is very, very difficult for people to assert their rights, to say, to not open the door, you know, or if the door, if ICE does come into a private place, to say out loud, you know, I don't give you the authority to be here. And that's some of, if you go to our website under resources for immigrants, available in English and Spanish, you'll see a lot of the Know Your Rights material has some really good videos, really good resources, you know, the red cards. So sure, they can equip themselves with those things, but it is also important to not to frighten people, but to prepare for if they are arrested, what they should do. You know, that they first have the right to remain silent, you know, so that's why we do trainings for these, and we send them to trainings as well. But I think the resources are out there. It's just how, you know, taking the time to equip yourself. Yeah. A lot of the questions that you're asking, though, certainly are on the website, and the videos have been around for quite a while, since Trump 1.0, and they can help equip them for what to do. The other thing is that the separation, the family preparedness planning materials, I prefer to say that than separation planning. The family preparedness planning materials do also provide tools for them to hopefully feel empowered. I will say there is one thing that may not be on our website. There is an app that I encourage people to download also. It's called Know Your Rights for, the number 4, Immigrants. Know Your Rights for Immigrants, okay? It was put out by and I believe it's available for Android and for iPhone. It is available, was created by the National Korean American Service and Education Consortium. And you can change the language. It's got several languages. And it's an app that they can have on their phone that has some KYR information, and also has a way to notify, like there's a button where you can notify your contacts that you've, you know, more easily that you're about to be detained. What I will say, okay, is that in a recent liaison meeting with ICE, a recent stakeholder meeting with ICE, they have said that they are not, that should someone be arrested or about to be arrested, they need to assert what their needs are. I need my medication, okay? I have a child who's going to be coming home. I need to, you know, get them to a temporary guardian, okay? So if they ultimately are going to be arrested, they need to have in their mind what they're going to do, what they're going to say, and how they can continue to assert themselves to ICE. So they have the right to remain silent on other matters, but if they're going to be arrested, they should advocate for their health and for the safety of especially minors.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm curious, could you go through the site really quick just to show a few of those features you were describing during the presentation?
Absolutely. Happy to do that. Yeah. And I'm gonna, I added this slide here just so you could kind of also get an idea. A lot of people have questions about asylum too, and kind of just what the state of asylum is. Just so you get a sense, there is a really, really significant backlog. And so I know a lot of clients are, you know, we have clients that have been pending since, you know, 2016, and, you know, we're going on a decade. And at the rate that they are going now, so there is a significant slowing that you can see here. The backlog is significant. Both at the bottom here, you can see the Maryland Immigration Court, EOIR is the immigration court backlog. And we have 2 courts in Maryland, and this is the US backlog overall in the immigration court on asylum. Also up top here is the Arlington Asylum Backlog. That's for affirmative cases because Arlington Asylum Office takes cases from Maryland and Virginia. All Maryland and Virginia cases feed into the Arlington Asylum Office. So there are approximately 100, over now at this point, 155,000 cases, almost 156,000 cases that are pending at the Arlington Asylum Office, and 1.5 million cases pending US wide. So just wanted to kind of give you a sense of that. And yes, absolutely, I can stop here for a minute and let me just get a web page up, and I'll be happy to show you. Yeah, there's some very good resources here. So I'm going to share screen with you again. Here we are. Sorry for all this back and forth. There we go. So this is our web page, and you can see here right at the top is resources for immigrants. Okay, we're going to click on this resources for immigrants, and immediately you can select to view this page in Spanish. As you scroll down, you'll see Know Your Rights and Preparedness material. Okay, I'm going to click on that, and it's going to provide a breadth of resources. So the page is not available in all these languages, but you can find resources in a variety of other languages other than English and Spanish. These Know Your Rights videos available in English and Spanish. Oh, here we are. I was wrong. We do have the Know Your Rights for Immigrants app on the page. So I encourage, I've got it saved on my phone. And I typically, when I'm doing legal tabling, I orient people to that app. And then we've got here Virginia Rapid Response Toolkit, Maryland Rapid Response Hotlines, ICE Detainer Locator. This again, if you want to visit or even print out what is a real versus a fake warrant, or not, rather a real judicial warrant versus an ICE warrant. Okay. And then additional emergency hotlines, pamphlets, things like that. We also talked very briefly about the expansion of expedited removal. That's here on our left-hand side here. Remember, we said the administration has expanded. Expedited removal has always been a tool, but they expanded it from less than 2 weeks or less in the United States to 2 years or less. Okay. And from 100 miles, near a land or air border to the entire interior. Okay. The problem is that the burden is on the individual to demonstrate that they have been here for 2 years plus. Okay. So I am encouraging folks to just have this information either on their person or readily available, okay, that they have been in the United States for 2+ years. It can be a little tricky because then you have the right to remain silent, but then you're also sharing this information, being careful about what information you share. Also, something to keep in mind, if you say you have it on your cell phone, okay, which seems like a really good idea. People have their cell phone on them. But once you give ICE your cell phone, they're going to look through everything. They have access to anything on that cell phone. So having actual documentation is better, although I know it's challenging to have that on your person. This talks about the immigration registration requirement. I just remembered something. So this is ILRC's FAQs. Let me just click on this for the registration requirement. So I've gone to another website here. ILRC, the Immigrant Legal Resource Center, is currently doing an every other week. I think I might have sent that to you, Taylor, the link for that. But it's so every other week, ILRC is doing a 1-hour briefing over lunchtime or 1 p.m. Eastern. I think it's 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. You can sign up and continue to, it's free. You can sign up and join that webinar, and they are basically doing updates every 2 weeks. So you could potentially designate somebody in your agency to listen to that. I think they're doing their best to not to make it super legal in nature, but just to kind of keep everybody abreast, especially, you know, because you're like, well, what's going on with this litigation? And there's a lot of litigation out there, and they're doing a really good job of seeing where we are in terms of, you know, birthright citizenship. And, you know, as agencies like IRS have this MOU with this memorandum of understanding with DHS, they're updating us, and they're also hearing on the ground what's actually happening, because it's not just about the policies, it's also about how it's being, we want to know how it's being implemented too. So let me go back from here. And if you don't have that, Taylor, let me know and we can get that to you. But the link for signing up for the ILRC every other week webinar. But I think that'd be great.
Yes, and I just popped that in the chat for folks.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Because yes, I'm not watching the chat. All right, so let me go back here again to, we went resources for immigrants, know your rights, preparedness material, family separation planning. This again is separated out by jurisdiction: Virginia, Maryland, DC. Okay, we are very, very fortunate in Maryland that we have a lot of really good resources. Okay, in terms of standby guardianship, family safety planning forms, standby, and you can actually, going to this website, Standby Guardianship Project, it's got, you know, again, I'm leaving our website here, but it has a lot of really good resources that, you know, began under Trump 1.0 and really streamlines the process for having standby and helping people understand this is available certainly in English and Spanish. You can see up here in the upper right-hand corner, and some of the resources may be available in other languages as well. All right, let me just go back again, and you can scroll down. This is regarding ICE check-ins. I will say, if you have clients who are doing ICE check-ins, it is really good for them to have accompaniment. And there are some agencies that are doing accompaniment, or if your agency is capable of doing accompaniment, just for them to have someone with them who is not concerned about their immigration status is really important. But ICE in stakeholder meetings has told us, you know, that if a client, you know, one, don't miss your check-in. It's just going to make you a greater enforcement priority. But two, if you have any pending humanitarian cases, make sure you have proof of that. So clients going to their check-ins with proof of their pending cases is really, really important. I was going to say something else on that. ICE has told us it's difficult to know. In the stakeholder meetings, they have told us it's business as usual. That although we're hearing nationally that there's greater enforcement happening, and we are hearing about it locally, they are still many of the same people in those offices that were there prior to this administration. Until they receive very specific directives, they're continuing to, you know, they're continuing to use their discretion positively with regard to humanitarian cases. And Unfortunately, we don't know. And that's why it's also so important to report these things to CASA, because CASA is collecting the reports about ICE enforcement so that we can verify what is true and what's part of the rumor mill. Let's see here. Social services, healthcare, general information. So you can see that's, we try to provide other resources. We work with a lot of domestic violence and sexual assault survivors. And then, you know, if your rights are violated, this is where you're going to find information on the ACLU and civil rights organizations. And then down here, you can see our other, you know, other links to other service providers. Unfortunately, because of the cutting of federal contracts, some of these agencies are functioning at much more limited capacity. And so, you know, even our agency took a hit, but not, and we've had to unfortunately let some people go. But not as significant as some of the other agencies. That being said, if you know, that's why it is so important for us to continue to partner. And if you know of others who are interested in MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, or medical legal partnerships, please do reach out on that front. It helps us to serve the clients better at a time where we have more limited resources. And then also, I know sometimes people are moving out of the area. We know what's happening in the DMV, but there is this website on the bottom here, National Immigrant Legal Services Directory, Immigration Legal Services Directory. This is a good place to go if you know somebody who is moving out of DC, Maryland, Virginia, and you'd like a reputable immigration legal services provider in that area. It's a good idea to refer them, and they may know the local, they may, even if they cannot, they don't have capacity, they may know private practitioners in the area who do. Somebody has their hand. Sharon, I think, has her hand up.
Yes, I just had a question about medical legal partnerships. Can you describe sort of what that is and what the extent of the scope of services that you would provide through such a partnership?
So it really depends on, I mean, it's a capacity issue, but it also really depends. Sometimes what we're doing is we are, you know, building that partnership and then seeking, you know, buy-in from foundations and donors in the state and such. But what we're doing essentially is doing legal tabling at locations that, so for example, if there is a free clinic set up somewhere, or if there is an area where there are already other social services, we are coming on site for a few hours, you know, every however often, you know, capacity permitting, maybe once a month, we are there for 3-4 hours, screening clients, giving them legal information, and potentially, you know, intaking them for full-scale representation where we have capacity. But that way, we're, rather than them scheduling appointments outside of that time frame, they know we are on site. They can utilize us as a resource in places where they already are. So some of the areas that we're going to, you know, have food pantry, free clinic, areas where there are collaborations already set up. And so that's a really a good resource and a good way for us to be client-centered and to you know, maximize our capacity as much as we can.
Thank you.
Hopefully that, yeah, and feel free to reach out more. We're kind of regularly meeting with folks to see, you know, where we can potentially have collaborations, particularly if they have spaces where privacy, where, you know, where the client can receive privacy and where we feel that like the flow, it just sort of makes sense in terms of the provision of resources. So one of the partnerships we have, which is not an MLP, but we've been doing it for maybe, gosh, 6-7 months now, is through Enoch Pratt Public Library in Baltimore City. And that they have a food pantry, they have social worker in the library, and they do have health workers on site at various times. One of the challenges there is privacy. We're in a public space, so you know, there is some concern around that, but we try to just sort of do the best we can to take all of that into account and serve the clients as much as we can. Any other questions?
Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for
Yeah.
taking the time out of your very busy day to come and speak with us and provide us with this vital knowledge. I'm going to go ahead and put the link to the survey that you had the QR code up. It's
yeah.
really
Sorry
short,
for-
3 simple questions. If folks can go ahead and take that and
thank you
help
so
our
much.
friends over at Just Neighbors.
Appreciate you.
And Sarah, would you mind putting your contact information in the chat?
Yep, I
And
can
then we will
actually-
let you get to your 1 o'clock.
That's totally fine. I can do. I'll do it in the chat. Yes, good idea. I'll stop screen sharing. And let me put that in the chat. I will just share some good news because it was a very, very early morning for me. We had an individual hearing before a judge in Baltimore, and it was approved for our client was approved for asylum this morning in a really tough case. So we've already by 9 a.m. this morning, we were shedding a lot of really happy tears. So it's, you know, a relief in the midst of like the work that we're doing right now to just have that opportunity to shed some happy tears. So hopefully that brightens somebody's day. Yeah.
Well, congratulations. Thank you so much for all of your hard work. If we can be of any further assistance, you know how to reach me. Please let us know, and we look forward to staying in contact with you, Sarah.
Yes, please do. All right. Take care. Have a good one.
Thank you. Take good care.
Thank you so much.
All right, folks. Well, before everyone hops off, we're just going to finish up with our community announcements. Thank you, everyone, for your questions and your interactions during today's presentation. So I will send out the meeting notes with these community announcements as well as the slides that Sarah went over today. But from our friends from the Community Engagement and Consultation Group, CECG, I just wanted to make sure that I was sharing this out, that there are some events taking place over the summer. Every other Friday, folks can come in and receive SNAP services, donated goods, food referrals, and Medicaid enrollment services, as well as their Harvest of Loaves opportunity that is going on Monday to Friday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So I will share these flyers again with you all, but wanted to make sure everyone had these resources at their fingertips. And then lastly, I'm going to put another link here in the chat coming up in a few weeks on Tuesday, June 10th. From 6 to 7:30 p.m., the Prince George's Health Action Coalition is going to have our in-person quarterly meeting. We're going to do a legislative wrap-up, a legislative review of everything that's happened this season, and talk about new coalition priorities and future opportunities for advocacy within our coalition. So if you are interested in attending that meeting, we ask that you all register and include the meal that you would like to receive during that meeting. And you can register via that link in the chat. Are there any community announcements before we wrap up for today? Alrighty, well, thank you again, everyone. I will be sure when I take today's recording, I will also cut it down to just be today's presentation from Sarah, and I will share that all with you. So feel free to share that link with others. We'll have it up on our YouTube page, so you can share the YouTube link far and wide with anyone who you think would benefit from this information. And all of this information will come to you via our meeting slides. Our next CCCT meeting is back to our regular scheduled time at 11 a.m. on Thursday, June 26th, but we certainly hope to see you at the quarterly meeting, again, taking place on Tuesday, June 10th in the evening. But otherwise, everyone, take good care, and I hope you all have a wonderful, hopefully sunny weekend.
Do the same.
Thank you. Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Taylor.
Thank you.
Can you share by email those flyers about the pantry and the services, please? Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nancy.
Have a
Good